Hi guys, welcome back to Bare Conversations, a vulnerable space for real people and their real faith. My name is Daniela, I'm the host of this podcast, and I make videos every week about self-improvement and self-help because I feel like being your best self is the best gift you can give yourself. Today's episode is all about figuring out when to let go. We're going to be looking at different scenarios, specifically that I've labeled them dilemmas of where letting go can be a bit difficult, or maybe when the thought of letting go arises. So if you have experienced that, or you're maybe kind of going through that, I know I am, feel free to kind of stick around, and yeah, we'll get straight into the video. Thank you. This topic is just really interesting for me. I think learning to let go of things is really difficult for us as human beings because we're very attached kind of people from when we were young to as we grow up. I think regardless of the attachment style we may naturally have, I think the reality is a lot of our tendencies revolves around wanting to belong, wanting to attach ourselves to something, wanting to have meaning in the things we do. So figuring out when it's time to leave a place, leave a friendship, or set of boundaries, it can be very difficult because we don't really like to rock the boat, and whatever is going to seem like it is a threat to our safety, a threat to our, well, emotionally, really, not really physical safety, but a threat to our emotional safety, a threat to our belonging, a threat to us being accepted, we tend to push it back and avoid it a little bit. Anything that requires us to feel a little bit more, anything that requires us to think a little bit more, we tend to avoid it. So that's why I brought up this topic as part of the Breaking Cycle series. I think these are things that have to be done regardless of how we feel. These are things that will consistently show up in our lives. We're always going to have hard moments. We're going to always have conflict. And if we don't learn to break the cycles that stop us from handling these things correctly, I think we're not really ever going to grow. We're going to kind of progressively get worse as we age because things get harder as we age. So the sooner we can identify these things and learn how to fix them as well as learn how to improve on them, the better. So yeah. So let's get straight into the dilemmas for today. I've got three once again. And then we'll just start into each one. So our first dilemma today is called The Undermining Friend, and it goes: I've been friends with someone since university, and we used to be really close. Lately, I've noticed that whenever I share good news, she makes small jokes that put me down or brushes it off completely. When she's struggling, she expects me to be fully there for her. I've started telling her less about myself, and she has noticed. Now she says I'm distancing myself and abandoning the friendship. Am I being too sensitive, or is this a valid reaction slash time to step back? Okay, I don't think I've actually particularly dealt with this kind of issue in friendship. I've dealt with friendships where I've been scared to share stuff, or friendships where um sometimes I have to hold my tongue, but not really a friend who tears me down, because as soon as you start talking to me negatively, I am walking out that room. But let's kind of focus on this scenario. So in the case where you've got a friend who seems to really not value the good things that's happening for you, doesn't celebrate with you, and it kind of feels like she doesn't care, or she minimizes the good things that are happening to you, I think you have two choices. You can either, and I do recommend either two, obviously, you can either directly discuss this and bring it up to her without coming from a place of clarity, coming from a place of, this is how these set of actions have made me feel, and I'm just checking if anything's wrong. So coming like, recently I've noticed that when I told you about A or I told you about B, it seemed like you weren't really bothered or you didn't really care. I was just wondering, I don't really think that's your intention, but I was just wondering if something's going on, or maybe that topic you didn't really want to hear about it, or you don't really feel interested. I think stepping back from people is good, but not communicating first, it does, it leaves too much room for guessing, and it leaves too much room for resentment to grow, when really and truly something can be solved with communication. Even if it does still end up with you with it of you like with you needing to step back, I think it's still necessary to have that communication in between, because you don't really want, either of you shouldn't really be carrying anything in your heart against each other. That's not the ideal way to do it, and that's not the way God really wants us to do it. And then the second way to kind of look at it is, potentially, and this is hopefully not the case, your friend is doing this deliberately, slash it is coming from a place of jealousy, it's coming from a place of, maybe it's a trigger for her, it's coming from a place of, they actually don't probably care the same way you do about the friendship, or at least about the things that are happening, that is happening in your life, the same way you care about things that's happening in her life. And once again, you're not really going to know unless you communicate. But then I think sometimes there are clues that point towards these things. There are clues, there are things that tell us that, oh, actually, I don't think this person is my friend the way I'm their friend. And some of the ways we can kind of identify this is to question who does most of the initiating, um, what do we consistently talk about when we have conversations? Do they inquire about myself? When I do need help, can I reach out to them? Do they feel safe enough to tell my deepest secrets? Do they feel safe enough to tell them my problems, to tell even my smaller secrets? Really, they don't have to be your deepest. Do they feel safe enough for things like that? When you kind of look into stuff like that and start to question the depths of your friendship, I think then you're able to identify better what may be fueling this different reaction and this different dynamics that show up in how both of you react to different things that are happening in your life. I don't think stepping back or wanting to step back is too much of a reaction. I don't think it was an overreaction either. I just think that in our process of trying to step back and protect ourselves, that we make sure we communicate correctly as well as get our facts straight. I think most of us have kind of lost the art of being able to communicate and to deal with conflict with an open mind rather than villainizing people and assuming the worst. And I know I just said that potentially the person might be jealous, but I think that is a reality that does exist, and it is something we can consider. But then it's not. We don't need to ruminate on it alone. We don't need to ponder on it alone. We don't need to assume that is definitely what is happening, and then villainize the person because of what we think is going on. So my take on this and the way I would personally handle it is to be direct with the person, is directly discuss it, directly bring it up, and then see what the reaction of your friend is. And usually the reaction your friends have tells you all you need to know. It is hard for people not to be defensive. It's hard for people not to feel like they're being attacked. But I think if we choose our words correctly, as well as we come with a place of, I want to fix this, come with the type of language that says that I am not necessarily blaming you, I've not necessarily concluded on this, I need information. Usually people tend to be more helpful. And if they're vague or they kind of brush that off again, then you know that actually this friendship isn't serving you the way you want. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to fully cut them off, but I think reducing certain privileges, reducing expectations as well is the right way to handle this. But yeah, it's very difficult. I think we all want our friends to be our biggest fans, especially when we are theirs. But the reality is that we don't all get that privilege sometimes. And it's a sad thing, but it's okay. I think focusing on friendships where it feels more equal, focusing on friendships where you actively pour into each other's cup should always be the priority, and will give you hope that you will have more friendship like that. And if you don't have any just yet, I promise they definitely do exist. And yeah, as long as you continue wishing people well, you can always expect that people should give you what you also give them, and then you can hold people accountable when they don't. You don't have to accept less than what you're willing to give. Yeah, that's my take on that. Hopefully that, I don't know if that's good, I don't know if that's helpful, but yeah, that's kind of my take on that. Okay, shall we do the next one? This one is more on family. So this goes, the name of this dilemma is called Boundaries with Family. I'm the oldest sibling, and my family relies on me a lot, emotionally and financially. Recently, I realized how draining it is being the one who fixes and plans everything. I shared my feelings with them and said I can't always help or be available anymore. And now they say I've become cold and selfish. Part of me feels a bit relieved, but the other part feels guilty. How do you navigate establishing a boundary and selfishness with family loyalty? Okay, I promise this one is not about me. I promise. Has nothing to do with me. It's more of, this is something that I know I've seen commonly online. And yeah, I kind of wrote from that perspective, and even some of like resentment feelings I felt once upon a time when I didn't really communicate as well as I should have. But yes, this one is quite hard, especially when it's family. Balancing the loyalty you feel for your family, the love you feel for your family, but also still being able to push for your own boundaries, push for your well-being is hard, especially when you're in a family that treats you as more of an indispensable resource, whether that's emotionally or financially. I'm going to start by saying this really softly and saying this really carefully. Your first obligation is yourself. Okay? Your first obligation is yourself. And And to be able to pour into other people's cups, you need to fill yours. You genuinely need to fill yours. It's like the Bible says that you need to love other people as yourself. You need to love yourself so that you can give that love to other people. You are, the way the Bible says, as yourself, the benchmark of love you have for yourself is usually it's not even usually, the love you have for yourself naturally when everything is okay is the benchmark for the beginning of the love you need to give to other people. So if you cannot advocate for yourself, well, not even advocate, if you cannot pour into your own cup, you're not going to be able to pour into theirs. And having after living a life of consistently pouring and pouring and pouring and then end up empty, it's gonna feel difficult to make that change, and your family's also going to react to that change. They're not going to really understand where it's coming from because potentially as an older sibling you've pretended like everything was all right for a long time. Well done for speaking up, and I think that is the right thing to do, is to always speak up and communicate, because your family should want to listen. But I appreciate that not every family is like that, and a lot of people's family, especially their parents, have probably also been that sibling who has just given their all, and it's hard for them, and they never stood up for themselves, so it's hard for them to accept when their child is now in their position and is standing up for themselves. I still recommend, and I always will, communication should be priority. I think you should not carry guilt for taking care of yourself, for advocating for yourself, and for putting yourself as a priority. There is no reason to feel guilty for that, and you are not selfish. It is the first step to taking care of the people, really, to take care of yourself. I think easing people into these things, having the right type of discussions, not necessarily just going cold turkey, not necessarily just ripping things under, not pulling the rug under people's legs. It's being wise in sharing and expressing why this change is coming. That should always be the priority. So as you have now told them, and it seems like they are reacting negatively, I think my advice is that do not lose hope. Do not take what has been said as their final say. Do not hold it necessarily against them, because they also need time to adjust. Like my siblings kind of taught me this, that even though they hear me and they understand me, they can't change in a day, and I can't expect them to change in a day. So it's very important that now that you've shared this information, to also give them grace and time to react to it correctly. And I know, like you said from the start, they've not done that, but that doesn't mean they never will. So I think it's really good, and it's really important to now hope in the people that you know that love you, hope in the people that you also love, that eventually, and as time goes on, they'll react, they'll adjust to this new change and fully support you as you establish the right boundaries for you. And then that, by the grace of God, will improve your overall family relationship. And I'm telling you to actually have this hope, because that's been my experience for everything I've done and everything I've communicated to my family about maybe feeling emotionally overburdened or feeling like I'm the one that does everything. They've always taken it with grace, even though it's taken time to adjust, or maybe they've gone defensive in the moment. They've actively put in time to basically change according to what we both need for our relationship to flourish. And I know that in some cases that actually you might not have a family willing to change. There are people that are entitled, and it will make you they will make you continuously feel guilty. They might gaslight you, they might talk down to you, they might start to exclude you. And I'm really sorry if that's the case. Like it's not ideal, and it's not a nice experience at all. But don't stop, don't change your mind, do not get rid of your boundaries because other people don't know how to handle it. It is more important that your cup is full right now. It is more important that you can function properly without burdens beyond you, so that you can consistently pour in the right places. I think in our pursuit of learning to love our neighbor correctly and learning to love our family correctly, we cannot really abandon ourselves in that pursuit. We can't do that. So even if you're now in the position, like I said, where your family's not necessarily supportive and they're not necessarily helping and they're not necessarily listening, don't stop. Don't give up. Your boundaries are more important. One day you're going to have your own family, your own relationships, the people, you're going to have other people you're going to call family. And you don't want to get so lost in and have a distorted view of what family is meant to be, that when you do have new people in your life, you kind of mess it up. You never know how to really handle it, and then you're maintaining these broken systems that actually hurt you. So you've made the right choice, and it is hard right now, but I think it's very important to carry it on, because in the long run you will be grateful that you set those boundaries at the right time. And also, sometimes these boundaries show you who really actually cares about you, who actually cares about you as a person, who actually loves you. So better to have that information now than never, right? Yeah. I'm sorry I don't really have a proper answer for this, and I don't think I ever really do. But I definitely hear it, and I've definitely been not exactly been through it exactly in this way, but something similar. So I promise there is hope, and I promise that you're doing the right thing. It'll be hard. It'll just be hard at the beginning, but that's okay. You can get through it. Okay, and the final dilemma we've got today is called leaving a good thing. I've been volunteering in the same place for years. It's been great, and at first I loved it because it felt meaningful. Unfortunately, now it feels more like an obligation. I still show up, but internally I feel tired and disconnected. Part of me thinks commitment means staying even when the passion fades, but I wonder if I'm only staying because I feel guilty leaving. How do you know the difference between perseverance and staying somewhere good out of obligation? Okay, this one's a bit different. So this one is less, still emotional, but less relationally emotional, maybe. It's more to a it's more loyalty to a place, a system, an experience, a job. Yeah, and like maybe say a time in your life. This one I've struggled to leave jobs and have overworked myself because of the fear of like basically just leaving. I just didn't want to let go of that era because I was so grateful to the people that gave me that opportunity. And also I just loved the people I worked with so much that I just didn't want to leave, even though it didn't serve me anymore. I would, before my shifts or before my shifts, before the days that I had to go in, I'd kind of dread it so much. I'm like, I wish I didn't have to go. I wish I didn't have to go. And even though after I did do the thing, it was okay in the end. But I was so clear from God and just from the way my nervous system reacted that I was done and I needed to move on. And for a lot of those places, I overstayed I wouldn't say my welcome, but I overstayed my season there. I stayed like months more than I actually should have, and wasted more energy, wasted more strength than I really needed to. So even though I was doing a good thing and the people were so good and it was a great experience, I think I didn't do myself a service. Wasn't really obedient to God either. And ultimately it just kind of continuously fed into my self-worth issues. So for this, I think it really does hit home, and I'm really passionate about making sure people do not feed their self-worth, feed their insecurities by no. And it's really important to me that people do not feed their insecurities by being too fearful and being avoidant in making decisions that actually are beneficial for them. Just because something is good doesn't mean it's still good for you. Okay. Just because something was meaningful today doesn't mean it's still meaningful tomorrow. And just because you enjoyed something before doesn't mean you have to stay out of obligation. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to keep doing it. Not everything has to be experienced in the way you experienced it at first. Not everything has to be enjoyed and continued in just out of obligation. I think life is too short for that. Life is too short to force yourself to do things you don't actually want to do. Life is too short for you to continuously push yourself in places that actually drains you and makes you resentful. And now you're feeling tired and exhausted after every shift, every experience, every time you show up. I think we should never lead and make decisions from a place of fear. We should never lead and move in life from a place of fear. We should always prioritize choosing our growth. We should always prioritize choosing what actually gives us life, what is um, beneficial for our journey, our growth, and the person that we want to be. So when we find ourselves in situations where now it's hard to say goodbye because of loyalty, because of fear, and because it's technically a good thing, and it feels like we're going to be missing out or we're throwing away something good, even because of fear of the future, sometimes we really need to make sure that we prioritize what our ultimate goal is. I think we cannot lead by fear and lead by, yeah, I think we're going to lead by fear and lead by like a fake loyalty and obligation when we're choosing the things we're going to do in life. I think choosing your future self and the person you want to be should always be the priority, not holding on to what feels good right now. Because every time I've done that, I've not necessarily regretted it, but I've not regretted it. No, I've not necessarily regretted it, but I've seen the consequences of holding on to something longer than I needed it to. It's just like food. Like I feel like if you leave something in your fridge too long, it's going to expire. Just like, and seasons are just the same. Things, there is a time. There's a best before time to use things. There's a best before date for everything. There's a optimal time to eat something. Just like seasons, there's an optimal time to do it. But when your season's over, when it's the best before date has gone, it's time to move on, it's time to leave, it's time to throw it out, and that is okay. Staying out of obligation or keeping food in your fridge because, oh, I spent money on it and I know it's gone off, but I've spent money on it, I don't want to throw it away, isn't really logical, isn't really smart, isn't really life-giving. And in the end, when you continuously keep yourself or maybe force yourself to eat that thing that's gone off, you're going to fall sick. And that it really shows up in the same way with staying in places for too long. It might not be as obvious as obviously food poisoning, but then like it says in the dilemma, like I've experienced, it's exhaustion, it's emotional, psychological, physical exhaustion. Almost sometimes it can again move to resentment for the place and the people that you work with because your time is up but you don't want to go. And that then you might push the blame to them that, oh, they're the ones keeping me here, but they're not really keeping you here, you are staying. I think we need to take our lives by the reins. We need to take our lives seriously enough to know when my time is up, my time is up, and not be too scared to move on. So I'm not minimizing it. I know it's hard. I promise I know it's hard. And I still, even today, I'm still kind of in the same place because a part of me is scared to leave. But every time I've left and every time I've made the hard decision, my life has been better for it. Everything I was giving away, I received it back tenfold. And I grew in a more unique and more beautiful ways because I was willing to shed off the dead weight, shed off the things that my spirit was done with. In the Bible, it says that God prunes us. He cuts off the things that aren't bearing fruit anymore. And I think that is just, it's so important. So when you feel like God is telling you to get rid of something, or when you even feel like your spirit is telling you and your nervous system is telling you and your mind, you can just tell that it's done and it's time to cut off these branches that are no longer bearing fruit. You need to do it. Otherwise, you're going to keep pumping resources and pumping energy and pumping time into it and regret it in the end. But yeah, if you're in that season, I wish you so much luck and I know you can do it. So, but yeah, if you want to share and we can pray for you, we can talk about it, we can encourage you, feel free to put it down below. I think I'm going to just end this by saying that there's never a perfect time to let go. There's never a perfect situation where setting up boundaries and stopping something you've done for so long is easy. There's never a perfect time to really address letting go. But then the most optimal time is as soon as you feel it. The most optimal time is as soon as your body tells you, your spirit tells you, and God tells you that, okay, now you've had enough. It's very important that you listen. And it's very important that you act on what you're hearing, because you wouldn't hear it for no reason, right? You wouldn't hear it if there was not something really off, and you wouldn't hear it if there wasn't something better at the end of that decision. So if you're having issues letting go or you're struggling letting go, I wish you so much luck. I promise you that there is something better at the end, and don't let fear be the one to control your life. You get to control your life, and you should choose your future self. You should choose what works for you. You should choose what will bring you most life, and you should choose yourself. Do you know what I mean? Choose yourself. Choose loving yourself. Choose bettering yourself. You'll never regret that. You'll never regret that choice. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for engaging, and I really appreciate every one of you that takes time to watch this video. And yeah, if you have any thoughts, any advice, or if you've been through this, please do share in the comments. I love to hear from people. But yeah, you've been watching Bare Conversations, a vulnerable place for real people. I'm Daniela again. See you next time. Bye.